Save My Piggies, Your Life, Your Limb, Your Story, with host Dr. John Phillips and Kym McNicholas.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. Charles Winters thought he could breathe a sigh of relief after the gift of a lifetime, a kidney transplant that saved his life. But after his fight for life, he found himself fighting for his limb. Doctors hadn't told him that chronic kidney disease, or CKD patients, are at increased risk for peripheral artery disease, blocked arteries, and mainly the leg arteries, which restrict blood flow. And also the steps that could be taken, such as with diet and exercise, to possibly prevent it. So after he recovered from a kidney transplant and had just started getting his life back in order, he found himself back in the hospital fighting to avoid amputation. And he is going to be joining us in just a few moments to share his incredible journey, not only fighting for a limb, but fighting for life. Dr. Phillips, this is going to be an amazing Save My Piggies broadcast.
Yes, I'm super excited. I read a little bit about Charles and his struggles, trials, tribulations. I know that he's focused and he's trying to do what he can, and he's got a great partner sitting next to him. So I'm really excited to hear their story. I mean, Save My Piggies is about the patient. It allows the patient to have a voice. You are a fantastic advocate for patients, but I think the Save My Piggies allows them to just kind of tell their story, and then we can learn from them. Because I learn all the time when we interact with patients and they tell me things that I don't necessarily think about their experience in the whole on the highway of medicine, as it were. And so I'm really excited about it. And thanks for having this episode. I'm really pumped.
Thank you. Well, let's kick things off with a moment of inspiration.
Yeah, so today is Eleanor Roosevelt's birthday, and she has a lot of cool quotes, good quotes, inspirational quotes. This quote's about leadership because I think doing what you do, you have to be a leader and you have to inspire people. And so I like this quote, and I just found it because I'll have to tell you what I was doing before we recorded this because I needed some leadership. But anyway, so Eleanor Roosevelt, born today, October 11th, she said, "Good leaders inspire people to have confidence in their leader. Great leaders inspire people to have confidence in themselves." Yeah. And I love that because you have to have confidence in yourself. And I also read this, I don't know who did this as a psychologist or something, but you can change a person's mental attitude. One person at a time can change that. And if you said something to, let's say you're struggling and someone says, "You know what, Kym, you got this, you can do this." That's 4 or 5 words that you said can really stimulate you to achieve the task. And that's what being a great leader is. So, well, I love it.
It's so amazing that you say that, because one of the things I always say to the PAD, peripheral artery disease warriors, as we call them, or PAD warriors, is I'm only the facilitator for your desires. You're the one with the desires. You're the one who reached out. You had the courage to reach out. And so I can only literally help execute on what you want. What do you desire? I see you in your wellness as long as you see you in your wellness. What do you want out of this? And what are you willing to do to get there? And I just help them to reach those desires, which usually is a longer, healthier, pain-free life with their 2 legs intact, hopefully.
All right. Yeah, and I think that we all need inspiration, and we all need to be told we can do it. And even in the darkest hour, if there's someone by your side that can help motivate you, that'll get you that will get you through that dark hour. But it'll the sun always rises, and it's just one of those things where we all need people to help us and to support us, no matter who you are.
And that's where Charles Winters and his wife Pamela had reached out to me. And it's interesting because I didn't ultimately have anything to do with the decisions that, in terms of, I didn't facilitate an introduction ultimately to the doctor that saved his leg. in this case. But I was with Pamela at a certain point in this journey, right, Pamela? And you were the one that truly were the inspiration and really kind of that fight in there. And I was just listening and helping to affirm or help just listen, I think, to what was going on and just to support you.
Well, let me just say, you gave me the option to keep going, like to not give up, to keep fighting for him. And so that's what I did. I followed your lead.
Yeah, just giving you hope. That's literally all I could do at that point. And you were the one, you were the boots on the ground. You both were the boots on the ground and actually making that happen. And so, again, just the facilitator, the desire that you guys have, right?
Right.
So let's start from the very beginning of your journey. It's so amazing to see you both here today and to see you got two legs there, my friend, Charles.
Yeah.
It's been such a long battle. I want to go back, I think, John, what do you think, to the beginning? Because I'm curious about, that moment where you were feeling great and then the next moment you weren't. Can you bring us back to that time? What were you doing before, and then what happened? What stopped?
Well, I was a baker at Brookshire's grocery company for about 19 years.
Wow.
And I got sick in 2013 and lost all kidney function. I knew I had the disease, but the doctor that I had, Dr. Noble, was awesome. And she kept me off of dialysis for probably 4 or 5 years just by medicine and diet alone. So I went through 9 years of hemodialysis, the last 3 years being at home, which was the best decision I could have ever made because I was getting tired in clinic and just having those moments of wanting to give up, and being at home with my kids and wife doing it. It gave me like more energy to keep on doing it. So the kidney transplant actually happened last year in November. So I'm coming up on my first kidney anniversary. And well, in between that, just having problems before the transplant. I had a cardiologist that Pam actually went to with my diagnosis, and he confirmed the diagnosis that it was PAD. The reason why I was having pain when walking and standing, and I also had a wound that wouldn't heal. So when she went to him with that, he actually tested and confirmed what Pam had found out.
Coming up right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to continue with Charles Winter's story along with his wife Pamela in just a moment. So stay with us right here on the Heart of Innovation and our Save My Piggies special.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Another Save My Piggies episode, and we are so pleased to have Charles and Pamela on the show. Charles, is you kind of, before we went to the first break, you shared your story with us, kidney failure. You're coming up on your first year having that miracle transplant. And I have to ask, where did a family member give you the kidney, or did you find a donor?
It was actually a deceased donor. And I know we're on time, but what actually happened was my niece last year, and she's in California. She actually, from my social media, got in touch with Baylor, and they had gotten her tested and back and forth with them. And they found out that she was not a match. And on a phone call with her, she was telling me that I'm not a match, and that she wasn't a match. And on the other end of the line was Baylor calling me to come in for a kidney.
Wow, that's awesome.
I mean,
Yes,
yes,
the
that
same
really
phone
happened.
call. He got the call while he was on the phone with our niece. Yeah.
But
And
this wasn't, you weren't sure though, with that phone call, if you were actually going to get that kidney.
Right, because
No.
he was actually the second in line to receive that kidney. But, you know, we had to pack up and go forward as if he was. Because
yes,
we had to be there because Baylor is like 3 hours away from us.
So the good Lord was smiling on you that day, huh?
yes.
Yeah,
So-
bring us back to that
Yeah.
whole experience, being at the hospital and going in. What was going through your mind? I mean, all you can do in those moments, right, is have faith and have
Right.
hope.
Yeah.
All right.
But going through it before here in Shreveport and getting the IV and getting ready to go to surgery and then being told no,
We kind of had prepared
we kind of
ourselves.
prepared ourselves a little
Oh,
bit.
so you'd been told no already once before.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's gotta be
Oh my
pretty
goodness. So
disappointing.
that's going into the hospital. You have to get the IV in. And in that case, were you first in line for that one, or were you second in line and then the first one just happened to work out?
I was
No,
first
he
in
was
line.
first in line, and for other medical reasons that he had. And if we're all being transparent, his weight was the reason why he was unable to go forth with that transplant.
We had a goal and I was 6 pounds over what they wanted. And it was a day that I didn't dialyze.
So he had extra fluid on his
that
body.
was just fluid. If I would have dialyzed, I would have been well under because I always take off 3 to 4 liters. So, and it was kind of the way the doctor told me that he was going to go meet with the committee. This was at 6 o'clock in the morning. He came back a few minutes later and said the committee decided not to go forward.
So Charles, sorry to interrupt, but for our listeners and actually for my knowledge, because I'm a plumber basically, not a kidney specialist, but like you said, you were first in line or second in line. Like, explain that to us. How does one get kind of positioned or go up the pecking order for availability of organs, particularly in this instant, a kidney?
Well, the transplant list is compiled by how many years that you were on dialysis or you've been on dialysis. Of course, certain things matter when the kidney comes up. It has to be the right blood type and antibodies and things like that. So the order kind of gets skewed at times. But the longer you're on dialysis, the higher you are on the transplant list. And it just so happens I was.
And I know we have.
Mm-hmm.
We have Terry Litchfield. She is with Dialysis Access Solutions. She is the president. She's also a patient advocate for people with CKD. And I wanted to have her weigh in with any other knowledge she might have on, the whole process of getting on the wait list and then ultimately being selected. Terry?
Yeah, it's a really tough, these lists are long. So the average wait for a kidney is now about 4 years in the US. And so it's very competitive. If you get your weight or things will put you down on the list. And then when it comes in, it really is, because minutes matter. You want to get both of those kidneys from a deceased donor into the proper people. Now, there used to be a lot more questions asked, and the transplant, the way we manage the transplant list and the whole way the US handles transplants is actually in the process of being big changes, so that some of the things that other patients have may experienced won't be as prevalent in the future.
So Terry, two questions for you. Number one, like, what if I needed a kidney and my brother wanted to give it to me? I'm assuming that's
a living related, and that gets expedited.
And then I'm going to ask about maybe, and I'm naive here, but maybe the dirty side of things, or the underbelly of it. What if I have a lot of money and I wanted to, expedite my position on the list? Do people do that?
You can. In the old days, you could, but now these lists are not managed by the transplant centers. They're national lists.
Right.
And so you have a number, and it's a codified number. So you can't slip a quadrillionaire in.
So you're telling me, like Warren Buffett, if he needs a kidney, he's waiting like the rest of us.
He should be.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, except that he'd probably go overseas and find a location that
Yes,
he could potentially
yes.
buy his way in.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
I'm
I
sure
was
people would be willing to sell their kidney to Warren Buffett.
Yeah,
Right.
so
If they were matched.
I was with the WHO in Asia. I was based out of Singapore, and it was quite common for patients that didn't qualify. Most countries don't give everybody dialysis.
Right.
And if you were over 55 in Singapore, you weren't going to get dialysis. And so you would go to, depending on your ethnic background, if you were of Indian descent, you would go to India and buy. And if not, if you were Chinese, you would go to China and buy. So there's a market for organs.
Wow, but Charles, you were lucky. Within what amount of time, or what was the time frame between the first and the second for you?
It was about 3 years.
3 years. See, that's incredible, and probably a lot of pain and suffering along the way.
Yes. I just one day I just had a notion to try to go to a different transplant center. And the closest would be either New Orleans, which was 5 hours, or Baylor, which was 3 hours. So I filled out the application, got worked up there. I made the list like a week later after getting all the tests done. And it was probably 6 months waiting on Baylor's list. And they called me for the backup kidney.
So you
kind of right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to get into the story about what it was like for him. They got the call, they got in the car for this second opportunity, and then what happened? Stay with us.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Save My Piggies segment here, episode. So Charles, before we went to break, I kind of derailed things a little bit because I was curious about the whole process, and I think our listeners are. But now, hey, you got the call, you're rolling in, you're number 2, and then you get bumped to number 1, and it's go time. The shuttle's launching. What is going through your mind? And tell us about that day.
Well, on that call, like they told me that I had to come in like I was the number 1 patient. So we would get there early at 6 o'clock, and they would work me up with the blood test and make sure everything was still the same as when I got worked up before. And basically they took like 10 minutes to do that blood work. And then they was like, well, go to the mall, go to the movie, anything, get your mind off of it. And, we'll call you if it's a go with you. Well, of course, we couldn't do that, get our mind off of it. So actually what we did was go downstairs to the lobby of Baylor. And from, I think we ate breakfast. So from like 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock that evening, we were just there talking about how we were going to handle the disappointment of not getting it, because as the time went on, we was pretty much sure that we wasn't going to get it.
Well, they had a Starbucks, so I was calm.
But so I'm curious, like they let you eat. So the assumption is, because you have to be NPO, nothing for, I'm assuming, at least 8 hours. So there was so they knew they were getting a kidney in at some point in that day, but it wasn't going to be until that evening or whatever. Yeah. So they told you, go ahead.
Yeah, they actually did give some information that it was a deceased donor, and that wherever he was on life support, and they expected to, I don't know what they call it, but pull the plug around 1 o'clock that day. So 1 o'clock came, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, the valet closes, and I tell Pam, well, let's get the car and just ride around till they tell us no, and we can get back on the highway. Well, she got the car around 4:50 or so, and we are driving out of the loop to get out of the hospital, and they call. And I was like, well, Pam, this is it. They're finna tell us, we don't get it. So we've already got our mind made up. We're gonna go home. And she says, Mr. Winters, and I say, yes. And she says, I got good news. And now I can't tell you the rest of what she said because we were hollering and praising. And by the time we calmed down, she was telling us to go across the street, go to the 14th floor. They'll be waiting for you there. And with that excitement, I'm excited to get there. But in the back of my mind, like, this is not going to go, just preparing myself for disappointment. And they get me there and they get me hooked up. And I've been this place before, so I know it ain't a go till it's a go.
Right.
The surgeon came in and everybody came in, and I was like, it's not gonna happen. And it happened. They came and said, we're ready to go downstairs. And it was like a mad rush then, like they were moving, getting stuff unplugged and getting ready for me to go to surgery. And coming down the hallway in the bed to go downstairs, getting prepped for the surgery, all of the team that was on the 14th floor were there with signs and horns
and horns on both sides
of the hallway. And they're saying, congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. And
oh my God, you're gonna make me cry.
It broke me.
I got goosebumps.
They made it in a unforgettable experience from beginning to end for us.
Yes, they did. And I just want to interject real quick that the transplant team in Shreveport, where we live, and going to Baylor is like a different world.
Night and day.
It's night and day. We're the city that we live in is a whole lot smaller, but being at Baylor and the way they treated us and that parade they put on, I mean, I couldn't be happier going into surgery than that. And I'm glad we didn't know that they were going to do that to video it, because now it's like embedded in our mind, like we won't forget that,
So Charles, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I want you to answer this as honestly as you can. So tonight, their Powerball ticket is like $1.8 billion. Okay, right?
Yeah.
They're drawing that sucker.
Yeah.
So let me. I'm gonna pose this question to you. In one hand, I've got the winning numbers. Okay, and in the other hand, I've got a kidney.
Wow.
What would you take, knowing what you know?
I'm definitely taking the kidney.
Hands down.
Doesn't
even have to think about it.
Yeah.
How about the $1 billion if you were Warren Buffett and you'd buy the kidney?
Well,
I don't know if I would do that.
Take that chance.
Because the health system other places, you just don't know.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know. So you could wake up dead in a foreign country.
Right.
So no, I would definitely take the kidney.
Hands down.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No different.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Because
I love that.
I could have CKD and not wake up in the morning, and where does that $1 billion get me?
Right.
Yeah, I would take the kidney.
It's not always money. It's not always money.
Right.
That's awesome.
No, and that's probably, it speaks volumes for your character, and it's also probably one of the reasons why you were just celebrated so much, by the team over there, and everyone was just excited about it as you were. And Pamela, I'm curious from your perspective, what was really going through your mind? It must have been an emotional roller coaster and lots of prayers along the way, but
now
you must have had faith.
And I'm glad you said that. It truly, they say it takes a village to raise a child, but it truly takes a village to back a family with someone that has chronic kidney disease and the caregiver. Being a caregiver, I've literally had to lean on, because at times I had nothing but faith, because we were 3 hours away from our church family. our regular family, immediate family, all of that. So I had nothing but God to lean on. So it has really strengthened
How do you balance? How do you balance being a wife and a partner in life and a caregiver? Because I know that can be a struggle from both ends. And I see Charles shaking his head. That must be a struggle when she has to actually say, no, you need to do this. And I'm not telling you as your wife, I'm telling you because I not only as I love you, but I'm telling you as your caregiver, you got to do this.
Right. And first, to answer the first part of your question, not my strength. It has never been my strength.
But that probably creates a strain on the relationship because no.
We've had ups and downs, but through it all, we
Charles
we stuck it out.
She's always right, and I want to win, so I have to put up a good argument. But in the end, I know she's gonna win. So it really wasn't a strain.
You will learn something about us. We're more like brothers and sisters instead of husband and wife.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you get the kidney, you got the lottery ticket, right? You got the kidney. Okay, so you wake up. I'm assuming you're on some immunosuppressant. You're on a lot of new meds that maybe you weren't taking. But you probably figured, okay, I beat the disease that is going to do me in. And then in our first segment, you started having some symptoms of peripheral arterial disease. And you must be thinking, what the heck? Like, really? I'm going to get two things now? So we're coming up on a break here in a little bit, but I think we should start that story. Kym, what kind of time we got here?
Yep, I think that's a great time to go to break because you've opened an entire can of worms. And so I want to make sure we can dive in. That's next right here on the Heart of Innovation. So stay with us.
Welcome back, everybody. We are continuing our Save My Piggies episode in conversation with Charles and Pamela. So Charles, we're finally getting into the PAD portion of the show. And tell us a little bit about your symptoms and kind of how the workup was started and ultimately, what has transpired over the last, year and a half or so.
Okay. Well, I was having trouble walking, standing. It hurt. And I actually got a couple of sores on my foot that just wouldn't heal. And Pam, through her Dr. Google, kind of knew that it was PAD, but she went to my cardiologist with my symptoms and everything. And he was like, man, it sure sounds like it. So got an ultrasound and all that. And sure enough, it was. And he did some angios to keep the blood flowing to my feet. But that sore, while I was getting the kidney, that sore and having the immunosuppressant medications, it kind of exacerbated that sore.
Kind of sped it up.
It sped it up like a whole lot.
Yeah.
And we were in Dallas at the time that I was supposed to go back to my cardiologist to have more angioplasty to get more blood to try to heal that wound. Well, it didn't happen. And we were still staying in Dallas because we had to stay in Dallas 3 months away from the kids and everybody for the kidney checkups. So they sent me over to a podiatrist, and it had gotten so bad, it was no other choice but to amputate it. But before they amputated, they had to make sure it was enough blood flow to it. Mm-hmm. So I saw a vascular surgeon there, Dr. Ike, and he got enough blood flow to where they were confident that that wound would heal. And it did. It did. We ended up coming back to Shreveport and reuniting with the family. But I had a callus that wouldn't heal, kind of like on the bottom of my foot. Well, since we had a lot of doctors at Baylor, we went back to Baylor, and they were like, it's so bad that the one artery that we have going to the foot, it's almost clogged, and the only other choice we have to do is a cryo vein, which is it's a harvested vein that they connect one part of to another part of the leg to
Right,
kind
a
of bypass
Right,
it. Yeah,
right.
yes. So they did that, and it was working fine. Left, continued to heal. Still had staples in, and one night or one morning, I told Pam something's wrong with my leg. Like it feels kind of wet, and she looked at it, and it was bleeding.
Pull back the covers,
everywhere.
and he was bleeding out.
Yes.
Yes. So I immediately, my oldest daughter, I called her, told her to grab me some towels, grab some big towels. While holding pressure down on it, I called 911. With God's help, I dialed 911 with the other hand and told them the situation. And fast forward, we were taken to a local hospital here, but eventually they sent us back to Baylor because they didn't want to have anything to do with it. Really, basically, they didn't want to touch it because they didn't perform the surgery.
Yes.
So we ended up back at Baylor.
Back at Baylor, they tell us, the bleeding has stopped. We're going to watch you overnight because this was a Friday, and we'll check on you Monday. Well, that night, the bleeding happened again, and it was profuse. And Pam took pictures of it because the doctor wasn't in there and the nurses couldn't describe it. So when the doctor came back in, he said, it's probably just the hematoma that was finishing bleeding, and we'll look at it Monday. And Pam was
I
like,
showed him the pictures. I'm like, this is not.
So this is at the incision of the bypass?
The incision, yes.
Well, mind you, the incision goes from his knee all the way down to the top part of his
foot,
ankle on the inside of his leg.
So that's a pretty long incision.
Yes.
Okay.
So when she showed the doctors those pictures, he was like, look like we're going to have to call in a surgical staff, and we're going to have to do surgery on a Saturday. And they did find out it was infected. So they took the vein out, washed it out, and kind of stitched me back up. And
now you lost your bypass.
Yeah, I lost my bypass. Yes. The doctors always told me that was my last.
That was his last Hail Mary. So he said if that failed, then the only other option we had was amputation at that point.
Yes. So through Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I didn't have blood flow to my leg. And that Monday, the doctor came back in and saw us, and he explained, what he told us the last time. And he was like, the sooner the better that we get this amputation, that he was scheduling the OR for that Tuesday. And that was that.
We're talking an amputation below the knee?
Above the knee.
Above the knee. So what's going through your mind? Like, were you saying hell no? Or are you saying?
No, I resigned myself to, I'm going to have to take care of my kids.
He was preparing for an amputation
with one leg.
While I'm over there praying, and remembered my guardian angel, Kym, and was like, well, let me just text Kym and see what her opinion is on all of this.
Well, so how did you know about this said guardian angel?
Well, because we are part of the PAD Facebook page. And I had been following Kym, I'm like, eventually I'm going to need this lady because I'm going to have questions. I knew I was going to have questions that needed answered.
Yeah. So while I'm on Amazon looking at ways to modify the truck so I can drive with one leg because it's my right leg, she's over there talking to my cardiologist, talking to Kym, talking to God, and through all those people, they ended up finding a doctor in Houma, Louisiana, which was, since we were in Dallas, it was about 5 or 6 hours away, and
+3.
Yeah, +3. So they was like that ride with my leg open probably wasn't the best option. So at a conference, our cardiologist remembered somebody who was in Dallas at another hospital that was doing some experimental work to get FDA approved for this new procedure for
The deep
PAD.
vein arterialization, DVA, where they
Right.
hijack a vein in what the calf, and they actually reroute blood flow through the
Right.
vein into the foot.
Well, Kym, what you don't know, and that we later found out, he was not a candidate for that procedure. So Dr. Sia actually performed a regular angioplasty.
Oh, did he really?
Yes.
Yeah, I was curious. I was curious about that because
Yes.
yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, he was able to get blood flow back, and since then he's gotten blood flow back for all 3 of his main arteries.
Yes.
When
Oh
did
my
when did this
God.
happen?
It happened September the 1st.
So last month.
Yes. Just going back to that callus that wouldn't heal.
Right.
We had home health coming out and wound care taking care of it, and somehow it just went downhill, and had to go back to Dallas, and Dr. Sia looked at it and he was like, I don't like the way this looks. I'm gonna let a podiatrist look at it. The podiatrist said, I don't like the way this looks. Debrided it a little bit and it was down to the bone. And he said, when we see this is almost always an infection and we're gonna have to amputate. And before we amputate, we have to make sure that we have enough blood flow
Again.
to get this to heal. Well, Dr. Sia, what you don't know about him, he's very frank. And when we saw him after the surgery, the first intervention that he did after the cryovein, when he told us he did a regular angioplast, he came in and he said a few words and he was like, we're married now.
Yeah.
We're together, me and you. And I'm not saying that this is the only thing we're going to ever have to do, because I believe we're going to have tune-ups like every 3 months or 6 months or whatever. He's like, I'm not comfortable releasing you to your local doctors. I want to see you. So he was called to get the blood flow back to my foot to heal the soon to be amputated pinky toe. And he went in there and apparently he just tried and he got like all of the blood flow back.
Wow.
So I'm healing with 3 arteries opened in my foot. It's healing well. I'm in a walking boot, can put pressure on it. He said I can drive.
The key word, he's walking.
I'm walking. Exactly. Like,
And coming up right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to hear his final thoughts and where he is at and what is next for him now that he's walking. He has great legs going on and a great kidney. So we're going to find out his goals and what's next for Charles and his wife, Pamela. So stay with us.
Welcome back, everybody. Save My Piggies here. Final thoughts. We got 4 minutes left, Charles. So take us through this. You were staring down above the knee amputation, which is catastrophic in the sense of your ability to ambulate. Talk about financial strain on the relation unit, because the missus here is going to have to help out big time. Now you've lost one piggy, is that right?
I've lost 2. The third and the pinky, yeah. That I'm going to.
You've got 8, right?
I got 8.
And you go from one end of the emotional spectrum to the other, I imagine, in a short period of time. What's that like?
Well, it's given me back hope that I'm going to be able to do the things that I've always wanted to do, be like a whole human for my young children, because they only know daddy as a dialysis patient and cabbage patient, and now a kidney transplant patient and an amputee patient. So I'm hoping to get back that part of life that I want to do, the simple stuff that I can just get up and go and we can play catch and be on vacation without the hassles of, going through something medically.
I mean, this is something that's so fresh. I mean, you're literally just now taking that deep breath. Has it really settled in?
No,
No.
it's an emotional roller coaster. Ups and downs. It's always ups and downs. Like now, when we go to a doctor's appointment, I cringe because I'm wondering, should I have packed a bag? Because we never know when they're gonna say, okay, we're gonna need to keep you overnight. So when I say emotional roller coaster, it's been an emotional roller coaster for us.
Yes.
But you must have to have some, like, a lot of mental fortitude, the both of you, because throughout the program, you prepared for the worst. You hope for the best, but you were always preparing for the worst. But at some point, it takes as much energy to prepare for the worst as it does to prepare for the best, right? So
Right.
you have to, release yourself from that orbit of preparing for the worst and kind of gravitate towards, hey, what the heck, right? I mean, we got the key, we got the leg, we're going to win the lottery tonight. I mean, what more do we need, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get him to go on vacation now, and he won't go.
Hey, tell you what, doctor's orders. I'll write you a script, and your wife's a Dr. Google, so you got it.
We're waiting till I can put both shoes on, and then we're out of here.
Right.
We're out of here.
Good.
Yeah. Kym.
And I imagine still, yes.
Kym yesterday gave me a call that gave me a lot of hope, because throughout this whole medical process, I've been wanting to help other people going through similar situations, because I wish I had someone out there that was saying, not, just keep going, but actually know what I'm going through and the emotions that I'm having, that they're okay. Like, you can have a day to rest, you can have a day not to be strong, but just keep on breathing and keep on living, and you're going to make it through that situation. Long as you don't give up. You only lose when you give up.
And also from a caregiver standpoint, things that I've seen, it kind of has been pulling at my heart also, like how many people don't have a Pam, to speak up for them, or how many people don't have a family member that's sitting by their side that's probably being laid by the wayside and just left behind. And there really are avenues out there. Like, I'm an avid reader. I'm sorry, Dr. John, but I love Dr. Google, but I read everything, and I kind of absorb. And if I can help anybody, I'm willing to tell my story, his story, anyone that's willing to listen.
Yes.
Well, that's what Save My Piggies is about. So
Right.
You summed it up right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is absolutely fantastic. And I love your shirt you have on, Charles. It says undefeated, and you definitely are.
Right down here it says never lost. And we're talking about God.
Never lost.
Yeah, that's right.
Undefeated,
Never lost.
Always found.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much to you both.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having us.